Our journey today begins with a question. What if you could make tiny changes in your life that lead to massive results? Sounds simple, right? But most of us either aim to big or expect results too fast. And that's where things start to fall apart. Welcome to this in-depth summary of Atomic Habits by James Clear, a book that doesn't just talk about changing habits. It teaches you how to completely reshape your identity, your systems, and your mindset. This isn't your typical self-help fluff. This is science-backed, story-filled, and action-oriented guidance that can genuinely upgrade your life. By the end of this video, you won't just understand the mechanics of habits, you'll be ready to use them. Whether you want to exercise more, eat better, write a book, or just become the type of person who follows through, you're in the right place. So grab a drink, get comfortable, and let's explore how small changes can lead to remarkable outcomes. Part 1: The Power of Atomic Habits. Let's start with the big idea behind the book. James Clear calls them atomic habits for a reason. They're tiny like atoms, but powerful enough to shape your entire destiny. The point isn't to make huge changes overnight, but rather to improve just 1% every day, over time. Those tiny gains compound into something massive. To illustrate, think about a plane flying from Los Angeles to New York. If the pilot shifts the nose of the plane by just a few degrees south, the plane ends up in Washington, D.C. instead. A tiny shift, barely noticeable in the moment, leads to a completely different outcome over time. James emphasizes that outcomes are a lagging measure of habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your bank balance is a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning habits. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. This is where most people go wrong. They focus on goals, not systems. But goals are just the results you want. Systems are the processes that lead to those results. If you're a writer, your goal might be to publish a book. Your system is your writing schedule, your research process, your editing workflow. Fix the system, and the results will take care of themselves. Part 2: Identity, the real foundation of habits. Now here's something most habit books don't tell you. Real, lasting change is identity-based. Think about it this way. There are 3 levels of behavior change. 1. Outcomes: you want to lose weight, write a novel, or run a marathon. 2. Processes: you change your routine, create a new plan, adjust your schedule. 3. Identity: you become someone who doesn't miss workouts, someone who writes every day, someone who values health and discipline. Most people start with outcomes and hope that processes will follow, but real change starts from the inside. Identity drives behavior. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. Let's say you're trying to quit smoking. Instead of saying "I'm trying to quit," what if you said, "I'm not a smoker"? That's a powerful shift. One's a statement of effort. The other is a statement of identity. James puts it like this: every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. So, it's not about achieving goals, it's about becoming the person who achieves those goals. One real-world story James shares is about a man who lost over 100 pounds. His secret? He never focused on the weight. He focused on becoming the kind of person who doesn't miss a workout. Every day, he asked himself, what would a healthy person do? Then he did that. Bit by bit, he transformed, not just his habits, but who he was. Part 3: The Habit Loop. Cue, craving, response, reward. Understanding how habits work is essential if you want to change them. James breaks down every habit into 4 steps. 1. Cue is something that triggers the habit. 2. Craving, the desire or motivation behind it. 3. Response, the actual habit or action. 4. Reward, the benefit you get that reinforces it. Let's take a simple routine: checking your phone. Cue, you hear a notification ding. Craving, you feel curious, who messaged me? Response, you pick up the phone. Reward, you satisfy the craving, feel entertained or connected. This loop is what your brain uses to build and strengthen habits over time. The stronger the reward, the more likely your brain is to remember and repeat the behavior. So to build better habits, you need to make cues obvious, cravings attractive, responses easy, and rewards satisfying. James refers to these as the 4 laws of behavior change. We'll dive into each next. Part 2: Identity, the real foundation of habits. Now here's something most habit books don't tell you. Real, lasting change is identity-based. Think about it this way. There are 3 levels of behavior change. 1. Outcomes: you want to lose weight, write a novel, or run a marathon. 2. Processes. You change your routine, create a new plan. Adjust your schedule. 3. Identity. You become someone who doesn't miss workouts, someone who writes every day, someone who values health and discipline. Most people start with outcomes and hope that processes will follow, but real change starts from the inside. Identity drives behavior. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. Let's say you're trying to quit smoking. Instead of saying I'm trying to quit, what if you said, I'm not a smoker? That's a powerful shift. One's a statement of effort. The other is a statement of identity. James puts it like this: every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. So, it's not about achieving goals, it's about becoming the person who achieves those goals. One real-world story James shares is about a man who lost over 100 pounds. His secret: he never focused on the weight. He focused on becoming the kind of person who doesn't miss a workout. Every day, he asked himself, what would a healthy person do? Then he did that, bit by bit. He transformed, not just his habits, but who he was. Now, you might be wondering how this shift works in real life. It's all about small choices that align with the person you want to become. If you want to be a writer, you don't start by looking at the finished book. You start by writing every day, identifying as someone who writes daily. The more you show up as that person, the more likely you are to succeed. This identity-based approach is so powerful because it focuses on who you are becoming, not just what you're doing. It ties your actions to a deeper sense of purpose. Let's consider a professional athlete's mindset. They don't think about winning the gold medal every day. They focus on being the kind of person who trains relentlessly, who works hard every day, even when no one is watching. Over time, those behaviors compound, and the success follows naturally. This is why identity is such a crucial part of habit building. When your identity is tied to positive behaviors, the actions become almost effortless. The key takeaway here is that you are what you repeatedly do. The more you reinforce the type of person you want to become, the more automatic your behaviors will become. One additional idea James emphasizes is the power of self-talk. The language you use to describe yourself plays a massive role in shaping your identity. Instead of thinking, I'm trying to get fit, start thinking, I am a healthy person. Instead of, I'm trying to be productive, think, I am someone who works efficiently. This subtle shift in language can reshape how you view yourself and influence your daily habits. When you identify as a healthy person, for example, you'll naturally start making healthier choices. If you identify as a writer, you'll be more likely to sit down and write regularly. The more you align your actions with the identity you want, the faster your new habits will stick. James goes even further and suggests that the more you reinforce this identity with small actions, the more it becomes a part of who you are. He calls this identity reinforcement. So, each time you take a positive action, you strengthen your sense of self and reinforce the behavior. It's worth mentioning that identity-based habits are not about perfection. You will slip up, you will make mistakes. But the difference is that when you view your actions through the lens of identity, you're less likely to quit when things get tough. If you identify as someone who exercises regularly, for instance, missing one workout doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means you missed one workout, and you can pick it back up tomorrow. Part 3. How habits stack. The secret to making change stick. Now that we've talked about the importance of identity in habit formation, let's dive into a powerful strategy that can make your new habits stick. Habit stacking. Habit stacking is a technique James Clear outlines that involves taking an existing habit and stacking a new habit on top of it. The trick here is to leverage the habits that are already firmly established in your routine and use them as cues to start a new, desired habit. For example, if you already have a habit of drinking a cup of coffee every morning, you can stack a new habit on top of it, such as doing 5 minutes of stretching right after your coffee. The idea is to use the natural momentum of your existing habit as a trigger for the new one. Here's a simple formula for habit stacking. After current habit, I will new habit. You can adapt this formula for any new behavior you want to add to your life. If you already brush your teeth every morning, you could stack a new habit like writing a gratitude journal after you brush your teeth. The key is consistency and simplicity. One of the reasons why habit stacking works so well is because it taps into the power of context. When you tie a new habit to something you already do, you create a natural cue for that behavior to take place. You don't have to rely on willpower or motivation because the habit is already linked to something that's automatic in your life. A powerful example from James' own life is how he used habit stacking to write. He had a routine of sitting down to breakfast every morning. So, He decided that after breakfast, he would write for just 10 minutes. By stacking this habit on top of his existing routine, he didn't need to rely on willpower to get started. It became a seamless part of his morning. But why does habit stacking work so well? First, it's easy. You're not trying to overhaul your entire routine at once. Instead, you're just adding small, manageable actions on top of habits you already do. This lowers the barrier to entry and makes it more likely that you'll follow through. Second, it builds on existing triggers. Our brains love patterns, and we rely on cues to initiate behaviors. By stacking a new habit after an existing one, you're giving your brain a clear prompt to start the new behavior. It's like setting yourself up for success with minimal effort. In fact, this is how most successful people form new habits. They don't radically change their entire day. Instead, they find ways to leverage their existing routines to build small, consistent habits. Over time, these little habits compound and lead to massive changes. The power of habit stacking lies in its ability to make change feel effortless. Instead of forcing yourself to remember to do something new or trying to find the motivation to do it, you simply use the existing rhythm of your day to create a natural flow. By stacking one small habit on top of another, you build momentum that carries you forward. Here's another example. Let's say you want to start reading more books. If you already have a habit of sitting down for lunch every day, you could stack reading for 10 minutes right after lunch. By adding that small habit to a regular part of your routine, it becomes almost automatic over time. James suggests another tip for success when habit stacking: keep the new habit small. The more manageable the new behavior is, the more likely you are to follow through. Instead of committing to read for an hour after lunch, try starting with just 5 or 10 minutes. Once you've mastered that, you can gradually increase the time. As you continue stacking habits, you'll start to see the power of compound growth in action. These tiny habits, when stacked on top of one another, start to add up in big ways. Over time, the small changes become massive transformations in your health, productivity, relationships, and more. The best part is that habit stacking doesn't require any special tools, techniques, or systems. All you need is to identify the habits you already do and find ways to link them with new actions you want to adopt. This is an incredibly simple but effective way to build habits that last. Part 4: the 4 laws of behavior change. How to make good habits easier and bad habits harder. So far, we've covered why habits are so powerful and how to stack them. But now let us dive deeper into the 4 laws of behavior change, a framework that James Clear uses to explain how we can make habits work for us. These laws provide a simple, effective guide for making good habits easier to form and bad habits harder to maintain. Law 1. Make it obvious. The first law of behavior change is to make the habit obvious. This refers to creating clear cues that prompt the behavior you want to develop. In other words, you need to design your environment in a way that makes it impossible to ignore the habit you want to build. For example, if you want to eat healthier, you can make the habit of eating fruits more obvious by leaving a bowl of fruit on the counter. When you walk into the kitchen, the fruit is right there, acting as a cue for you to grab one. This simple environmental change can dramatically improve your chances of sticking to your goal. James also talks about the concept of implementation intentions, a strategy where you decide in advance the specific time and place for performing a behavior. For instance, instead of saying, "I will exercise more," you say, "I will exercise at 6 p.m. in my living room." This makes the habit cue very clear, and it becomes much easier to follow through. Law 2. Make it attractive. The second law of behavior change is to make the habit attractive. We're more likely to do something if we find it appealing. That's why it is important to make the process of forming a new habit as enjoyable as possible. James Clear suggests a technique called temptation bundling to help make new habits more attractive. Temptation bundling is the idea of pairing a habit you want to form with an activity you enjoy. For example, you could listen to your favorite podcast while doing your workout. The enjoyment of the podcast makes the exercise routine feel more appealing, and over time, you'll begin to associate working out with positive feelings. Another powerful way to make a habit attractive is to focus on the immediate rewards. Often, the benefits of habits, like exercising or eating healthy, don't show up immediately, which can make them harder to stick to. But if you can find a way to link immediate rewards to your actions, you'll be more likely to stick with it. For instance, after a workout, you could treat yourself to a relaxing shower or your favorite snack. Law 3. Make it easy. The third law is to make the habit easy. This one is crucial because if a habit feels too difficult or requires too much effort, we'll likely avoid it. The key to making a habit easy is to reduce friction, remove any obstacles that might get in the way of performing the habit. One way to do this is by breaking the habit down into smaller, more manageable steps. For example, if your goal is to start running, don't expect to run 5 miles on your first day. Instead, start by putting on your running shoes and go in for a 10-minute walk. By making the habit small and simple, you lower the barrier to starting, and over time, it becomes easier to build up your momentum. Additionally, James talks about the idea of the 2-minute rule, the idea that any habit can be started in 2 minutes or less. If you want to start reading more, for example, just commit to reading 1 page a day. The key is to make the initial action so small and easy that you can find an excuse not to do it. Law 4. Make it satisfying. Finally, the fourth law of behavior change is to make the habit satisfying. We are more likely to repeat behaviors that feel good, and we tend to avoid things that are unpleasant. This is why the reward for a habit must come immediately after completing it. James suggests using a concept called the habit tracker, a tool that can help make the habit more satisfying by visually tracking your progress. For instance, you could mark off each day you exercise on a calendar or use a habit tracking app to log your progress. The simple act of crossing off a day gives you a small but satisfying reward and provides visual proof of your consistency. Another way to make a habit satisfying is by rewarding yourself after completing it. Let's say you want to make a habit of working on your personal projects after completing a work session. Reward yourself by watching an episode of your favorite show or enjoying a treat. This immediate reward helps reinforce the behavior and makes you more likely to repeat it. The inversion of the laws, how to break a bad habit. Just as the 4 laws of behavior change can help us build good habits, their opposites can help us break bad ones. James Clear cleverly flips each law to give us an actionable strategy for kicking the habits we want to get rid of. Inversion of Law 1. Make it invisible. The best way to break a bad habit is to remove the cue that triggers it. Out of sight, out of mind. Let's say you want to stop mindlessly scrolling through your phone every morning. Try charging your phone in a different room at night. That way, when you wake up, it's not within reach, and you are not tempted to fall into the social media rabbit hole before even brushing your teeth. A classic example: if you want to stop eating junk food, don't keep it in the house. You can't eat what you don't have. This small environmental tweak makes a big difference. Inversion of Law 2. Make it unattractive. If you want to kill a bad habit, you need to reframe how you think about it. Instead of associating smoking with stress relief, start focusing on how it makes your clothes smell bad, ruins your lungs, or drains your wallet. James Clear reminds us that our identity plays a key role here. When you say, "I'm trying to quit smoking," you still identify as a smoker. But if you shift to, "I'm not a smoker," your mindset changes. You no longer see the behavior as a temptation, but as something that is not part of who you are. Inversion of Law 3. Make it difficult. Want to stop a habit? Add friction. Make it harder to perform. Let's say you're trying to spend less time on YouTube. You could uninstall the app from your phone, log out of your account, or even use a website blocker to limit access during work hours. Suddenly, it's not a mindless app anymore. It requires effort. That's the point. We often rely on willpower, but friction helps us design smarter environments where bad habits naturally fade away. Inversion of Law 4. Make it unsatisfying. Habits stick when they're satisfying, so to break one, you need to make it feel bad. This might sound harsh, but hear me out. You can use accountability to your advantage. If you're trying to quit something, tell a friend about it. Even better, set up a consequence. For example, if I skip the gym this week, I have to pay $20 to a cause I don't support. That kind of negative consequence creates just enough discomfort to keep you in check. You're tapping into a deep human trait. We hate letting people down, especially ourselves. How to stay consistent with good habits. It's one thing to start a habit, but staying consistent, that's where the magic happens. James introduces the idea of the plateau of latent potential. This is the hidden phase where you're putting in effort, but you don't see visible results yet. Most people quit here. They say, "I've been going to the gym for 3 weeks and I look the same," but success doesn't come immediately, it compounds. One story James tells is of a stonecutter hitting a rock 100 times without a crack. Then, on the 101st hit, it splits. But it wasn't just that one strike, it was all the previous ones that led to the breakthrough. That's what habits are like. Progress is happening, even if you don't see it yet. Focus on the system, not the goal. Here is something that really flips traditional thinking. Goals don't determine success, systems do. Most people focus on setting goals like, I want to lose 20 pounds, but that's an outcome. James argues we should instead focus on the system, the process that leads to the goal. In this case, building a habit of daily movement, eating healthier, and sleeping better. A powerful quote from the book, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. That's why Olympic athletes don't just say, I want to win gold. They build world-class training systems, eating routines, and sleep habits. The goal sets the direction, but the system gets you there. The role of identity in habit formation, possibly the most transformative idea in the whole book, is the concept of identity-based habits. Here is the idea: every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. Let that sink in. When you write one page, you cast a vote for becoming a writer. When you go for a run, you're voting to be a runner. These small actions, repeated daily, are how identities are shaped. It is not about faking it till you make it, it is about doing it till you become it. James breaks down identity change into a three-layered model. 1. Outcomes: what you get, e.g., lose weight. 2. Processes: what you do, e.g., go to the gym. 3. Identity: what you believe, e.g., I am healthy. Most people start from the outside in, but real change happens from the inside out. Focus on who you want to become and let your habits prove it to you. One small win at a time, designing your environment for success. We like to think we have total control over our behavior, but the truth is, environment often shapes our actions more than willpower does. Think about it. If you walk into a dark room, you instinctively flip a light switch. That's habit. The environment cues your behavior. So why not design environments that make your good habits the default? Here are a few quick wins. Want to read more? Keep a book on your pillow. Want to drink more water? Place a bottle on your desk. Want to stop wasting time on your phone? Put it in another room. As James puts it, environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. The easier your environment makes your good habits, the more likely you are to follow through even on tough days. Even small wins like crossing off a box or ticking a checklist send a signal to your brain, I'm making progress. That sense of momentum is addictive. You can also set up accountability systems. Tell a friend your goal. Post it publicly. Use habit tracking apps. The goal is to create positive pressure that keeps you consistent. But remember, missing one day is human. Missing 2 is risky. Missing 3, you're building a different habit, the habit of quitting. Part 1. When habits stall: mastering the plateau. Every habit reaches a plateau, a phase where progress seems to slow or stop. This is where most people quit, thinking their efforts aren't working. But the truth is, results are still compounding behind the scenes. James calls this the valley of disappointment. It's the quiet stretch before your breakthrough. Just like water heating up, nothing seems to happen at 99 degrees, but one more degree, and suddenly, it boils. There's a great story about bamboo. For the first few years, it barely grows at all, but underground, it's building an incredible root system. Then, almost overnight, it shoots up feet in just weeks. So if your habits seem stuck, don't give up. You might be 1 degree away from results exploding. James writes, complaining about not achieving success despite working hard is like complaining about an ice cube not melting when you heat it from 25 to 31 degrees. All the action is happening below the surface. 1 more degree and the ice will melt. This part of the journey is where systems, identity, and belief really start to matter. Are you the type of person who quits when things get boring? Or the type who shows up anyway? The most meaningful habits don't always give immediate feedback. Eating one salad doesn't make you fit. Going to the gym once doesn't change your body. But consistency builds identity, and identity builds results. The trick is to fall in love with the process, not the outcome. If you only love the results, you'll quit when progress slows. But if you love the system, the routine, the craft, you'll keep going even when it's hard. Part 11. Advanced tactics, habits, and flow states. As you get more advanced with your habits, the next level is finding flow, that magical state where you're fully immersed in what you're doing. Time slows down. You're focused, energized, and totally in the zone. To reach flow, your task needs to be just hard enough to challenge you, but not so hard that it overwhelms you. That's the Goldilocks zone, not too easy, not too hard, but just right. One key to flow is clear goals. You need to know what you're trying to do. Whether it's writing 500 words, running 5K, or finishing a chapter, clarity helps focus. Another important factor is immediate feedback. You need to know if you're doing well or falling off track. That's why sports, games, and creative work often lead to flow if you get instant results from your actions. James recommends regularly reviewing your habits to keep them fresh and effective. Ask yourself, is this habit still working? Am I still growing? Is there a better way to approach this? Optimization isn't about constant reinvention, it's about small upgrades. Maybe you tweak your schedule, your tools, your triggers. Even a tiny change can reignite motivation and focus. Here's another twist: the best habits are flexible, not rigid. Life will interrupt you. Plans will fall apart. If your system is too strict, you'll break it. But if your habits are built with flexibility, if not X, then Y, you'll bounce back faster. For example, if you usually run in the morning but oversleep, have a backup: a 10-minute walk at lunch. Didn't write in the morning, do a 5-minute brain dump before bed. The key is to keep momentum alive. James says, the best way to improve productivity is not by working longer, but by consistently working smarter. That's how habits create space for flow, by making the important stuff automatic, so your mind is free to go deep when it matters most. Part 12. The truth about successful people. Successful people aren't superhuman, they just have better systems. They build habits that support their goals and stick with them even when motivation fades. James shares stories of athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, not because they're extraordinary, but because they use ordinary habits consistently over time. Take Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps. He followed the same pre-race routine every single time, down to the moment he put on his goggles. It wasn't magic, it was a system. Or look at writer Stephen King. He writes every morning, without fail, for a set number of hours. That's not inspiration, that's habit. The lesson: you don't need a perfect plan. You need a system that helps you show up consistently. James writes, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. That's why focusing on daily habits is more powerful than chasing distant dreams. Goals set direction, but systems are what get you there. Part 1. 3 habits shape your environment, and vice versa. One of the sneakiest ways habits take root is through your environment. And the reverse is also true. Your environment shapes your habits more than you realize. If you walk into a kitchen and see a bowl of fresh fruit, you're more likely to grab an apple. But if there's a box of cookies on the counter, guess what you'll reach for? James makes it clear: environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. So instead of relying on willpower, smart people design their surroundings to make good habits easier and bad habits harder. Want to drink more water? Keep a bottle on your desk. Want to read more? Leave a book on your pillow. Want to waste less time on your phone? Charge it in another room. He shares a concept called environment design. It's all about making small tweaks that guide your behavior automatically. For example, if you're trying to eat healthier, prep meals in advance and store junk food out of sight. If you want to work out more, lay out your gym clothes the night before. If you want to practice guitar, keep it on a stand in plain view, not hidden in a case under the bed. Another cool idea: one space, one use. If your bedroom is also your office, your brain gets confused. Try to create separate zones, even tiny ones, for different behaviors. It helps reinforce the right habit in the right context. This isn't just about physical space, it's also about the people around you. If your friends eat fast food, binge Netflix, and complain about everything, guess what you're likely to do too? But if your circle is full of people who run marathons, build businesses, or read daily, their habits rub off on you. It's social gravity. James writes, surround yourself with people who have the habits you want to have. That alone can change your life. Part 14. How to break bad habits without hating yourself. Let's be honest, building new habits is great, but breaking bad ones is often the bigger challenge. James doesn't shame you for having bad habits. He gets it, we all do. But he shows how bad habits often follow the same pattern as good ones. The difference? They give short-term pleasure but long-term pain. To break a bad habit, you need to reverse the 4 laws of behavior change. 1. Make it invisible, hide the triggers. If you smoke when you see your lighter, get rid of the lighter. If social media sucks your time, delete the app or use blockers. To not make it unattractive, reframe the habit. Instead of "I need a cigarette to relax," tell yourself, "I'm harming my lungs for a 2-minute fix." Show your brain the truth behind the craving. 3. Make it difficult to add friction. Lock your junk food in the garage. Use a website blocker. Put your phone in another room. Make the bad habit harder to access. 4. Make it unsatisfying, add consequences. Tell a friend. Put money on the line. Use apps that charge you if you break a rule. Accountability makes bad habits way less fun. James also suggests identity inversion. Instead of saying, "I'm trying to quit," say, "I'm not that person anymore." It shifts your self-image, and that's powerful. The goal isn't to be perfect, it's to be aware. Most bad habits run on autopilot. But when you name them, question them, and make small changes, you regain control. And when you do slip up, because you will, don't spiral. One mistake doesn't erase progress. Just return to the system. James reminds us, every action is a vote for the type of person you want to become. Part 15. The power of never miss twice. One of the most helpful ideas in Atomic Habits is the concept of never missing twice. Let's say you skip a workout or eat junk food. That's okay. Life happens. But the rule is, don't let it happen 2 days in a row. The first miss is a mistake. The second is the start of a new habit, a bad one. This simple rule helps you stay consistent without being obsessive. It builds flexibility into your system while still protecting momentum. James says, missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the beginning of a new habit. That's why tracking habits is so useful. A calendar, an app, or even just a notebook lets you spot patterns. You might think you're consistent, but the numbers don't lie. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to avoid long gaps. And if you do miss twice, forgive yourself, but get back on track immediately. Part 16. Habits that last a lifetime. In the final part of the book, James talks about sustainability. How do you make habits stick for life, not just a few weeks? The key is to keep habits fun, flexible, and fulfilling. Variety matters. If you do the exact same workout or routine every day, boredom will kill it. Change the environment, the style, or the reward, but keep the core habit alive. Progress also matters. Humans are wired to love growth, whether it's lifting heavier, reading faster, or saving more. Tracking improvement keeps motivation high. And finally, purpose matters. Why are you building this habit? What's it leading toward? If you know your why, the how becomes easier. James writes, when habits align with your identity and purpose, they become almost effortless. So instead of saying, "I have to go to the gym," say, "I'm the type of person who values health and energy." Instead of "I need to stop procrastinating," say, "I'm the type of person who takes action." This identity shift makes habits sustainable because they're no longer something you do. They're part of who you are. Part 17. Small habits, massive impact. One of the biggest takeaways from Atomic Habits is this: you don't need massive changes. You need consistent, tiny improvements. James calls it the aggregation of marginal gains. That's a fancy way of saying 1% better every day equals big results over time. Let's break it down. If you improve just 1% daily, you're not just a little better. After a year, you're 37 times better. That's the power of compounding. And it works the same in reverse. If you get 1% worse each day, you don't stay the same, you slide into decline. This is why Atomic Habits isn't about motivation or willpower. It's about systems. It's about showing up, sticking to the process, and trusting that results will come. James says, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. So if you want to change your life, don't start with goals like lose 10 kilograms or write a book. Start with systems like go for a walk every morning or write 200 words daily. The results will follow. Part 18. The Real Secret: Who You Become More Than Anything. Atomic Habits is a book about identity. James Clear explains that true behavior change is identity change. When you build a habit, you're not just doing something, you're becoming someone. Writing every day, you're a writer. Working out consistently, you're an athlete. Saving money, you're financially responsible. Being kind to people, you're someone who values connection. Every time you repeat a habit, you cast a vote for the type of person you want to be. And guess what? You don't need 100% of the votes. You just need a majority. That's powerful, because it means you don't have to be perfect. You just need to keep showing up. So if you're watching this thinking, can I really change? The answer is yes, not by flipping your life upside down, but by building one small habit at a time and sticking with it. Final thoughts make it real. Alright, now let's wrap this up. Atomic Habits isn't just a bunch of theories. It's a practical guide to real change. Here's a quick recap of the core ideas. Focus on systems, not goals. Build habits using the 4 laws, make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. Break bad habits by reversing those laws. Track your habits. Stay consistent. Never miss twice. Design your environment to support your success. Align your habits with your identity. Become the person you want to be. Trust the process. Small changes equals big impact. And finally, don't wait for the perfect time. You don't need a Monday, a new year, or some magical motivation. You just need one small action today. As James Clear puts it, every action you take is a vote for the person you wish to become. So, what's your next vote going to be? Call to action. Let's build this together. If this video gave you that spark, that wait, I can actually do this kind of feeling, then mission accomplished. But don't stop here. Drop in the comments, what habit are you starting this week? Subscribe for more deep dive summaries that actually help you level up. And hey, share this video with someone who needs a little push. Your future self will thank you. See you in the next one.